Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today I've got a really fun gun on the table. It's a Beretta 92, or is it an M9A1? What this thing really is a 92 FSR 22. And the FSR is a suppressor ready kit, so as you noticed it had a threaded barrel, and it also has suppressor height sights. Kind of like the M9A1, it has a single slot Picatinny rail. But fundamentally, this is the same frame, the same size, the same dimensions. It's not a 2/3 or 3/4 size copy of it. They are made by Umarex. And of course, this particular one is unloaded. And it has a 15-round magazine, which is kind of unusual for 22s. A lot of them have 10, and some of the higher capacity ones have 12. In the non-threaded variant, this is available in a non-threaded variant, it's known as the M922LR. There's also another variation of this in Urban Gray. The non-threaded version is available with 10-round magazines for those that are in states that have limitations, so you can still get to have the fun of the platform, but you would be giving up the threaded features. And in many cases, the threaded features kind of become illegal along with higher capacity magazines in those jurisdictions that do that. But if you were to look at this thing when we first started the video, you'd have really no way of knowing it was a 22. Even the shape of the base plate makes it look like it's a standard magazine. The weight of it, it's 26.808 ounces, so it's not ridiculously heavy, but it weighs basically the same as an M9. So as a training gun, it's right in there with it. You're going to get that comparable weight. With the threaded barrel, you can put muzzle devices, a suppressor, or any other type of thing. And it does come with this, and it's a fake suppressor. It's straight through. If I put a light in it, you'll see that it's just a straight through. It's not threaded, but there's no suppressing capability whatsoever. And they kind of have a fun tagline so that you can put this thing on here while you're waiting for your stamp to arrive for your reel can. And by the way, I misspoke. It is threaded. It's threaded to thread onto the barrel. It's not rifled. So it's just a smooth bore, but there's no baffles or anything. So this is totally legal to possess without a stamp. It doesn't really do anything. Kind of felt self-conscious. I put this on the gun just to test it, see how it worked with it, how it felt with it. But at any moment I expected somebody to come up and just want to know the brand of my suppressor, and I'd have to kind of look at it and say, it's fake. So I don't know how much really you'd want to use this thing, but it is kind of cool looking. It's well machined, and it does thread smoothly on there. I can go ahead and put it on there so you can see what it looks like. One of the things you'll also notice with the thread protector on this is it has an O-ring. You can see it as I'm threading this off. Kind of cool. Right up until the moment somebody asks you about your can, and you have to admit that it's just a big hunk of aluminum that doesn't do anything. Now, it is really fun when you put a real one on there. This is a Sparrow 22 stainless steel, and this ran flawlessly on there. Of course, we'll include some range footage with this, the fake can, with the real one, with supersonic and subsonic. We ran CCI mini-mags through them, and we ran Gemtech subsonics through it. And it just worked. It looks like the real thing on it. And it did run just perfectly. So we found it to be reliable with or without the suppressor with the various ammos we tried. For training, I'll put the thread protector on it later. It's good for training, it's good for just a fun day at the range. And it's just a pleasant gun to shoot with no recoil whatsoever. And we do have a review, by the way, on this Sparrow, so that you can check it out if you're interested. These are really good cans. They're reasonably priced. The stainless steel versions are rated up to 5.7, so you can run 5.7 through it, as well as 22 Magnum, which a lot of 22 cans you can't. Now this is a DASA gun, just like the other members of the Beretta 92 family. It comes in 8.5 pounds in double action mode and 4 pounds in single action mode. Now this is a 22, so you don't want to dry fire it. But what I can do is hold the hammer. So right now it's in single action mode. I'll hold the hammer, and you'll see there is noticeable take up, but it's a very short crisp break, and then the hammer would come down. And then double action mode, you can see that it starts right at the beginning, and it does kind of stage a little bit. So the hammer is on the first stop, and at this point, if I were to pull it further, the hammer would come back and it would drop. It's really a very nice trigger. You can do that first one in double action mode if you want. Now it does have a decocker, which if I pull it down, not only does it go on safe, but it also decocks. And these can be modified to be a decocker only. I may end up doing that with this. We've done this with a couple of the other 92s. And then when you're back on to fire. It does have the open slide format of all the Beretta 92 and the new M9A3. Makes it really easy to work with. So really it's a almost perfectly faithful reproduction. There is a minor difference when I go to take it apart. I'll show you the barrel doesn't work quite the same way. One of the things you'll notice is when I slide, the barrel doesn't move at all. Now I happen to have an M9A3 here, which is another member of the family, and this is of course their newest one, and we've done a review on this gun. This one is threaded as well. This one's in 9mm, but one thing you'll notice is I pull it back, the barrel moves a little bit with the slide before that it stops and the slide starts to move. The barrel on the 22 is completely fixed. It just stays put the whole time. Minor functional differences related to the difference in caliber, but other than that, everything that could be the same is the same, even down to the grip panels, the magazine release, and the other features that are associated with it. When I look at it on the other side, even the mag well appears to be the same. Now there are some guides that are further in there to handle the more narrow magazine, the little bit narrower magazine, but it looks from the bottom, it looks almost the same. So even from a training perspective, putting the magazines in, you see the little ramps there and then the ribs. They're kind of hard to see, but there's one right there, you can see it. There's a ramp on that rib. So the ramp helps guide the magazine in. As I drop the magazine in, if I do it correctly, it'll help guide it in. I'm doing it upside down. Kind of guides it in, and then it drops into place and locks. So sitting on the table, you really wouldn't be able to tell that this wasn't a regular Beretta 92. The sights, it comes with very nice 3-dot suppressor height sights, and they very easily cleared that Sparrow. So that even if you had a slightly fatter can, the Sparrow is actually a nice thin one, but even if you had a fatter can, this would actually allow you to see. And they're just easy to see sights, whether the can's on it or not. The sights are very, very easy to see and work with. The takedown procedure on this is very easy. It's, the only thing that's a little different from some of the others you're used to is this little arm that you have to flip down. The 92 series uses this strategy. There's a little button here you push on all the 92s, and then you flip this down. Now one thing you'll want to make sure of is that you have it on fire when you do this. You don't want it to decock itself and slam the hammer up against the frame. You separate the two halves. I'll set this apart down for the moment. If you were to look at the frame component, they are different. So they're not interchangeable. You can't put the 22 slide onto the 9mm frame, but the differences are very minor. It would be very difficult to tell just looking at this whether it was a 22 or not. There's a little bit of difference here when it relates to the feed ramp and some of the other guide components, but overall the frame is almost identical. There's just minor nuancy differences. Put a little bit of light on it, you can see the look around a little bit. Where some of the differences come into play is the slide. Mostly focusing around the barrel. When I take the recoil spring out, which is a captive recoil spring, the barrel doesn't have the little button at the front that releases the arm that allows the barrel to disconnect. It just kind of sits in there and it just sits on the ears and locks in place. And of course it's got the integral feed ramp and the 22 chamber. And that's the biggest giveaway there when you're looking at it, is that 22 chamber. See if I can get a little bit of light in here for you to look down into the bore. You'll see it's typical land and groove. As typical of any of the Berettas, including the Umarex variants that this one is, they're very well machined. They're well done. Actually, you can kind of see the rifling there when it drives the rest of it out of focus. So they're just very well done. This thing is very well machined. I'm sure Beretta was very specific about the quality attributes. It's just well done. And by the way, I noted, I took this, I didn't put the thread protector back on just because it was easier and I didn't want to take up your time. But I'm going to put it back on to make a point. And that point is, the gun will go back together or come apart with the thread protector in place. Some of them you have to take the thread protector off. It's a little bit fatter than the barrel, and you have to take the thread protector off. Not on these, or the M9A3 threaded barrel. Either one of those that come right apart with or without the thread protector. Now of course you have a can on there, you got to take that off. Now I put the barrel back in place and it just drops down in, and you notice it's free. It'll lock up in the frame. One of the minor differences in the frame is to retain that barrel as opposed to it sliding back and forth. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back together. Put the recoil spring in. Now of course it's got a much lighter recoil spring. And here's the safety components. You can see here the little arms and actuators that drop the safety. And it does have, right there, that little piston is a drop safety. So it's a drop safe weapon, whether it's you operated the safety or whether it's in a cocked and locked position. And one difference too is, unlike the M9 and the 92s, where that piston protrudes out of the top as you pull the trigger, it doesn't on this one. It stays inside, but it still performs the same function. Now when I go to put it back together, it's fairly easy. Slide it back up, light it up, and bring it back. One thing I did find though is the 22 is a little bit particular about where you have it with the guide rod. And right now it's wanting to hang up because when I want to bring it back it's wanting to protrude that. So I didn't get it centered perfectly. So you want to make sure that you get it centered, you get it dropped down in there, and that the barrel has gone all the way back. That can be a little bit difficult. And then the only other thing that I found is that you sometimes have to have it positioned right in order to flip this lever back up. So it's still not positioned quite right. I'm not going to make you suffer through me playing around with it, but that's one thing that you do have to look at with these. If you don't get that recoil spring just in the right spot and the barrel all the way back, dropped down and locked, it won't want to go back together. And the evidence will be when you try to bring it back and set it up, or try to put this back up in the locked position, it'll hang up on you. So I'm going to fix that and then we'll resume. Third time was the charm. I reset the barrel and I reset the guide rod and it went right back together. But one of the things that'll kind of give you a hint that you haven't got it quite right is you won't get this to flip up. Beyond that, it is easy to maintain and it's easy to live with, and that's probably an artifact of the change of the tweaks they had to make to go to blowback, which is effectively, this is a blowback gun as opposed to the others. The changes they had to make to support the 22 cartridge to stay within the platform make that part a little twitchy, but it's really not bad. From a pricing perspective, these have an MSRP of $495. The non-threaded versions are a little less expensive. Street price, expect to pay between $350 and $450 for it. They are out there, they are available, but they're not necessarily readily available in common. So you're getting a little bit of I got one, you know, how bad do you want it pricing going on, but not ridiculous. You can actually get these at a reasonable price. If you've got a 92 or any of the M9, 92, M9 variants, this would be a perfect addition to be able to just have a day of fun. You know, you can shoot a whole day's worth of cheap ammo, do trigger practice, grip practice. I mean, you're holding a 92. So you can practice everything except recoil management with this, just like you would with the full-size one or the full power one, for a lot less money. Also, if you've got children that you're wanting to get into the shooting sports, this is a good way to start. It's a good large gun, comfortable to hold, easy to control, and in 22 you get minimal recoil. Overall, fun. Bottom line, I really enjoyed shooting this thing. I was able to pull really tight groups with it, see those sights really well, hang the can on it, makes it that much more fun. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe. If you do, click that bell to get notified. Check us out on Facebook and Patreon, and have a great day. Thank you.